The modern adaptation of The Ugly Duckling. In Bromley South, by the murky stagnant pond, where the notorious current was of which no duck was fond, Darla, the mother, adorned with a look of concern, watched her infantile brood, for whom she deeply yearned. The former three, Daisy, Darcy, Donald, were bright, but the latter, poor Dixie, was an appalling sight. Daisy and Donald wore yellow, ecstatic and elate, to maintain their distinguished and superior state. They donned orange tights, a notorious fashion error, to adorn their energetic forms, causing Dixie terror. Akin to an alien, she was devoid of the yellow hue. She felt substandard, a fish out of water, it's true. You exacerbate our monotony, Daisy would berate. Your lackluster feathers are a dismal, rotten fate. Donald was infuriated. His fury was incessant. Add fuel to fire. Dixie felt crestfallen and quiescent. Daisy puffed her chest, her sneer quite severe, as she whispered an insult for only Dixie to hear. Darcy was loquacious, a vocal, snobbish sort, who prohibited Dixie from the juvenile sport. Under no circumstances set foot in our lane. Your inconsistent wobbling is a horrendous drain. Dixie's dilemma was dire, her heart reduced to tears, as the tedious squabble escalated through the years. Her initial hope waned, her spirit deteriorated, as Darla's lenient words felt inadequate and outdated. Do not fret, little one, Darla tried to console, but the alienate environment to the heavy toll. Dixie looked at Darla with eyes wide and wet, facing a future of misery and constant regret. By the stagnant eyesore of a muddy, wet verge, Dixie saw Frankie the frog from the scent emerge. I propose a collaboration. Dixie tried to mimic, hoping to elude her substandard duckling gimmick. But Frankie was petulant, his reticent eyes wide. Contrary to kindness, he had nowhere for her to hide. You're an ear sore, he croaked, a cacophony of sound. Withdraw your infirmity from my exclusive ground. Then Freddie joined in with an erratic malfunction, treating Dixie's presence with total compunction. Are you for real? Freddie reprimanded with a glare. Your presence jeopardizes the very air I share. The frogs started a dispute, loud and quite erratic. Their croaks were cacophonous, harsh and dramatic. They argued and bickered over who owned the mud, while Dixie felt the rejection chill her very blood. Frankie and Freddie, in a petulant green huff, decided that Dixie had been around quite enough. On the out-of-bounds wall, Katie and Karen sat high, two egotistical cats with a notorious eye. They were reminiscent of superior queens on a throne, with a stench of outrage and hearts made of stone. They watched the pond with a look of pure spite, searching for victims in the fading pond light. Let alone your neck, Karen hissed with distraught. Your substandard physique is exactly what we thwart. Dixie trembled below, her legs feeling weak, as Karen's sharp insults reached a terrifying peak. You're a vandal of beauty, the cat did proclaim, leaving Dixie to wallow in a deep pool of shame. Dixie tried to engage, to right a wrong so severe, but Katie's hostility made the dire peril clear. Think twice, Katie spat. Before you proceed, your incompetence is an omen we do not need. The monotony of insults was the final straw, as Dixie hesitated near the cat's relentless claw. Add insult to injury. From the shadows Frances crept, a notorious fox, while the lenient pawn slept. Your demise is current, she barked with irate glee. An irresistible snack for a hunter like me. The circumstances were dire, on the brink of a wreck, as Frances aimed for Dixie's vulnerable neck. But fortunately, Dixie evaded the horrendous snap, eluding the vulpine, an automatic death trap. She scurried through briars and over the stone, leaving Frances behind, hungry and alone. The fox let out a bark of pure, irate frustration as Dixie escaped the grim termination. Crestfallen and inconsolable, she returned to the nest to find Darla struggling with a relentless unrest. The former ducks shun me, Dixie protested in vain, as the pathetic fallacy brought dismal cold rain. The sky was a mirror of Dixie's internal gloom as clouds gathered darkly, like an omen of doom. I forbid this retaliation, Darla tried to insist, but her lenient sanctions were omitted and missed. Everything was rotten, back to square one again, a monotony of tedium, of misery and pain. Dixie felt redundant, a burden on her mother's wing, in a world where she felt she didn't belong to a thing. Gradually, the spacious sky turned lackluster and gray. As the time of life waned and the sun faded away, Dixie vacated the pond, feeling redundant and lone, in a variable world that was hostile to the bone. She wandered the streets where the streetlights hummed, her spirit quite broken, her senses quite numbed. Sans friends or a family, she abstained from the fight, waiting for the light at the end of the tunnel's first light. Her juvenile feathers began to diminish and rend, as she longed to find where her horrendous life would end. The winter was harsh, an abysmal cold frost, as Dixie felt certain that all hope was now lost. The calm before the storm broke with a glorious scent, as a distinguished figure through the current was sent. Sarah the Swan, with exemplary grace, found Dixie concealed in a dismal, dark place. Sarah glided with beauty, her neck a long curve, with a kindness that Dixie did not think she'd deserve. Are you for real? Dixie inferred with a hush. You don't object to my substandard gray mush? Sarah smiled. Conversely, your beauty is vast. Your marred initial days are irrevocably past. Sarah nudged her gently, a mentor so wise, as the scales of self-hatred fell from Dixie's eyes. Dixie looked in the water, an ecstatic U-turn. She was indispensable now, with no need to yearn. A swan of superior and exemplary white, she had righted the wrong of her dreadful long night. No more bickering, quarrels, or petulant scorn. Dixie was the ultimate and distinguished pond queen,